Scientists are still baffled over the mystery of corn circles in fields in southern England. Anything from whirlwinds to UFOs suggested as the cause of the strange shapes.
Long before advanced computers were brought into the conversation, crop circles had already captured imaginations with their strange shapes and mysterious origins. To understand why this latest analysis feels so unusual, we first need to revisit how crop circles became one of the most debated mysteries of the modern age. Crop Circles 101. A crop circle is more than a patch of flattened stalks. It is a design pressed into wheat, barley, or another cereal crop, often wide enough to see from the sky and sharp enough to stop people in their tracks. What began as plain circles soon expanded into elaborate formations with clean symmetry and remarkable scale. Scientists and reporters usually place them in the category of human-made art or hoaxes, but that hasn't stopped their mystery from spreading across fields and into the public imagination. The question is, how did we get here? The methods behind them are surprisingly straightforward, with little more than wooden planks, rope, and some careful planning. A small team can lay down shapes under cover of night. By pressing the stalks without breaking them, the surface looks smooth, almost sculpted. Over the years, different groups took on the challenge, pushing themselves to create larger and more ambitious patterns. As each new design appeared, it felt less like a puzzle of nature and more like an unfolding contest of creativity. Yet, with every circle that emerged, another layer of intrigue followed. That intrigue reached its peak in 1991, when two friends from Southampton, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, came forward and revealed that they had been behind hundreds of these shapes dating back to the late 1970s. They showed how they did it, and even replicated their techniques for reporters. Still, their confession didn't put an end to the fascination. If anything, it deepened the mystery. If two men with simple tools could create so many, how many others had joined in? And how many circles were still unaccounted for? Well, as time passed, new ideas about technique entered the discussion. Physicist Richard Taylor suggested that modern makers could be using GPS systems to plot designs with precision. Others noted that lasers might help survey wide fields and create crisp lines. Physicist Richard Taylor even pointed to experiments with microwaves, showing how heated stalks bend cleanly and hold their form as they cool.
Which has very high energy electrons, and that means you can use it as a microscope to see very small distances.
Each of these theories pulled the phenomenon further into the realm of science and technology, yet they also raised another question. If artists have been refining their methods, how advanced could these techniques really become? Even with clear evidence pointing to human origins, wilder explanations continue to surface. Some insist crop circles are signals from extraterrestrials. Others see them as signs of hidden forces of nature, or even as spiritual symbols written into the earth. These claims thrive because the designs appear quickly, often overnight, and their scale makes them feel beyond human hands. Still, scientific studies are yet to verify anything beyond human involvement. The circles look mysterious, but the proof tells another story. And yet, the doubt remains, because mystery has a way of keeping its grip. Looking at the full picture, the whole story becomes crystal clear. Crop circles are real and impressive, but the weight of evidence points to human ingenuity, not otherworldly intervention.
These designs was how to create a completely straight line in the dark across a cornfield.
Their designs have grown more complex as makers compete and innovate, pulling in both old tools and modern technology. The confession by Bauer and Chorley pulled the curtain back on how much could be achieved with simple planks and rope. Later discussions of GPS, lasers, and microwave bending showed how the art could evolve. Still, fringe theories swirl around the edges, feeding the idea that there may be more to the story. And it is in that space between fact and speculation that the mystery continues to grow. The real test of these mysteries isn't found in history books, but in the circles that keep appearing today. The fresh crop circle scenario. When people hear the phrase crop circle, their imagination often drifts to the English countryside. But Wiltshire, with its rolling fields, has long been at the center of this mystery. Over the decades, that region has been home to an unusually high number of reported formations, drawing researchers, tourists, and skeptics alike. Similar appearances have surfaced in the United States and in fields across Europe, Australia, and even Asia. It is not a random scattering. Instead, the patterns trace cultural hotspots and landscapes that seem to invite curiosity. And the question is, why these places? And why so often? The circles themselves have changed over time in ways that almost mimic an artistic movement. Early sightings were plain single rings or simple outlines that could be explained away at first glance. Then, almost as if responding to attention, the designs grew bolder. Spirals, interlocking shapes, and intricate geometry started to dominate the fields. Some formations even resembled halftone portraits, with an accuracy that startled observers. Familiar elements like concentric rings and repeating fractals became a kind of language written in the crops. Each season seemed to raise the bar, making it harder to dismiss them as clumsy fakes. Where simple circles once puzzled farmers, now entire fields turned into canvases of incredible complexity. What drove that leap? Not every case is a mystery, though. Remember, we said in 1991, 2 men from Southampton publicly admitted to creating many of the earliest designs. Since then, other individuals and groups have confessed or been caught in the act, leaving little doubt that a large share of crop circles are the work of human hands. Many high-profile names within the circle-making community have been unmasked as hoaxers or performance artists. Those confessions explain why similar techniques show up again and again. And yet, there remain stubborn examples that do not fit so neatly into that story. Those few cases are the ones that keep the controversies alive. And now, these explanations tend to fall into 3 main directions. The first and most grounded one sees crop circles as a form of art, or sometimes as elaborate pranks. This line of thought points to the timing of appearances during growing and harvest seasons, the financial benefits of drawing visitors to rural areas, and the creative pride of circle makers looking to outdo each other. Over decades, the artistry has only grown sharper. For many, that is the entire answer, but others are not so satisfied. The second idea reaches toward nature itself. Some scientists and enthusiasts have suggested that unusual weather could be at play. Theories range from whirlwinds flattening crops to more speculative ideas about plasma vortexes, charged swirls of energy that could etch patterns into fields.
Anything from whirlwinds to UFOs have been suggested as the cause of the strange shapes.
The trouble is that while simple shapes might be explained this way, the more complex and symmetrical designs are harder to match with natural forces. Mainstream science remains skeptical, but the persistence of these theories shows how eager people are to explain the unfamiliar using the tools of known physics. Could nature really carve such perfect designs? Now, the third camp ventures into territory that science does not endorse. For those drawn to the unexplained, the sudden appearance of massive, intricate circles under the cover of night suggests something otherworldly. Extraterrestrials, paranormal forces, or messages from beyond these ideas have been a staple of popular culture for decades. Yet, no evidence has ever passed the test of peer review or independent verification. Still, the lack of proof does little to quiet the fascination. For many, the absence of answers is its own kind of evidence. Dabuntiken, keeping the mystery alive. The gap between what is claimed and what is proven is precisely where belief takes root. Technology has added a new layer to the investigation. Drones now capture sweeping aerial views within hours of a discovery. Multispectral cameras scan fields in wavelengths the eye cannot see. Soil samples and plant tissue are collected to test for changes that might reveal something unusual. Some teams have even brought instruments to measure electromagnetic shifts on site. But still, results vary. A few reports show odd measurements or plant changes, but other attempts to reproduce these findings often fall short. The inconsistency leaves more questions than answers. Could some circles really leave measurable traces, or are these anomalies artifacts of testing itself? Groups like the BLT research team have published studies claiming biological changes in plants, like elongated nodes and altered seed growth. These reports are cited often in arguments for the unexplained. Yet when other researchers tried to replicate the findings, many could not. Critics point to errors in the methods, while supporters argue the anomalies are real but difficult to catch. The truth is muddled in between, with contested results that neither confirm nor fully debunk the claims. This tension is what fuels the debate, giving both sides room to argue their case. If the anomalies are real, what could they mean? The heart of the puzzle comes back to the fresh formation, the one discovered before word spreads, before crowds arrive, and before explanations holds. Standing in front of a brand new, intricate circle raises a question that is hard to shake. Could this design hold a message or a structure too advanced for us to immediately understand? Most evidence points to human craftsmanship, and yet a thin thread of uncertainty lingers, pulled taut by reports of odd plant growth and curious soil readings. That is the space where skepticism meets wonder, where science keeps asking for replication while the mystery refuses to vanish. And it leaves us with a cliffhanger. What would it mean if one day a circle appeared that no human could convincingly claim as their own? The mystery of crop circles is one thing, but the tool said to analyze them is another story entirely. To see why the analysis raised so many questions, it is important to first break down what quantum AI actually is and why it has people talking. What is quantum AI? A new mystery often brings a new tool, and few words spark curiosity faster than quantum AI.
We might require computations with billions or even trillions of operations.
It sounds like a phrase borrowed from a sci-fi thriller, hinting at machines that can pierce through secrets hidden from regular minds. Yet, the truth is less about magic and more about two very real technologies, which is artificial intelligence on one side and quantum computing on the other. Each has its strengths, each has its limits, and when they're spoken of together, the story can sound a lot more certain than the facts allow. So what happens when these two worlds collide? Firstly, artificial intelligence, or rather AI, is easier to picture. It is the software that learns from data, spotting patterns and making predictions in ways that used to take human judgment. From photo tagging tools to recommendation engines that predict what we'll watch or buy, AI works by training on examples and then applying that training to new situations. That's its superpower, and also its weakness. Because if the data is flawed, so is the judgment. Every prediction, every insight, is only as strong as the foundation beneath it, which leaves one question hanging in the air. What happens if we hand this process to a computer that doesn't play by classical rules? Now, this is where quantum computing comes into the story. Unlike the digital devices we know, which work with bits flipping between 0 and 1, quantum computers use qubits. These can hold multiple states at once through a strange property called superposition. And when qubits become linked through entanglement, their behavior reflects connections that the typical logic can't explain. In theory, this allows quantum systems to tackle certain problems by exploring countless possibilities at once. In practice, though, these machines are fragile, full of errors, and still experimental. Their promise is real, but the leap to everyday problem-solving remains unfinished, which makes every bold claim about quantum AI sound both thrilling and suspicious at the same time. Patterns that once seemed random may not be random at all. They could be holding something we were never equipped to see, until now. Can the next generation of technology finally reveal what's been hiding in plain sight? It's no longer about staring at a field under the moonlight, trying to guess what those patterns mean. The real story begins when every line, Every curve and every faint irregularity is poured into a machine powerful enough to see what human eyes miss. This is where quantum AI comes in, and it changes the game entirely. At its core, quantum AI is what happens when two breakthrough technologies are fused together. Together, they create a system capable of handling data so massive and complex that traditional computers choke on it. Think of it as peeling back layers of information that normally stay buried and exposing structures and signals that were once invisible. However, what might those hidden layers reveal? Some researchers are already testing quantum AI in areas that affect everyday life. In cryptography, it's expected to challenge the codes that once seemed unbreakable, while helping design new forms of security no hacker could crack. In medicine, scientists use it to model how molecules interact, speeding up the search for treatments that once took decades to discover. Banks, labs, and even materials engineers are starting to explore its potential. These are small steps and early signs, but they hint at a tool that could reshape how we solve the hardest problems. Could the same tool be turned toward mysteries written in the fields? Let's shift a bit to the crop circles. These designs aren't mere shapes pressed into wheat. They carry layers of geometry, symmetry, and imperfections that challenge even the sharpest analytic tools. A standard AI can pick up repeating lines or curves. Quantum AI, though, promises to look deeper, detecting hidden frequencies, tiny shifts, or subtle harmonies that might sit beneath the surface. If there's a code locked into the geometry, this might be the first system with the power to notice. But does that mean it will find something more than art? For all the excitement, it's worth remembering that quantum AI is still in its early days. Most of the real progress lives in research labs and controlled experiments. In practice, powerful GPUs and classical systems still do the heavy lifting. Quantum breakthroughs, though, are beginning to stack up, and with every step, they are closer to becoming usable tools, which means the idea of running a crop circle through such a system isn't as far-fetched as it might sound. And that leads us to the real cliffhanger. What if quantum AI uncovered a message? Not random patterns, not coincidence, but an actual sequence or signal hidden inside the designs. Could these strange formations be carrying information the human eye could never decode? If the answer lies within the tangled lines of a field, then the first glimpse might come through the lens of this emerging technology. And the only way to know is to let the analysis begin. Researchers have started to imagine how the two fields might meet. The phrase quantum machine learning captures efforts to run learning algorithms on quantum devices or to create hybrid systems where classical and quantum methods share the load. Academic papers describe small experiments and theoretical blueprints, suggesting that certain tasks might one day see real benefits. Yet these are still the early steps. The breakthroughs are exciting, but they live mostly in labs and journals, not in the hands of industries or the public. Which raises the question, if the toolbox isn't ready, why are we already hearing about it as if it has solved old-age mysteries? This is the gap at the heart of the crop circle story. There is no functioning system today where a quantum computer and an AI pipeline have been fully merged and deployed on real-world mysteries. The image of a quantum brain scanning fields for hidden codes makes for an irresistible headline, but the reality is far less cinematic. Even the experts who build these machines warn against over-promising. Any announcement of a finished product solving puzzles through quantum AI should be handled with healthy doubt until independent proof arrives. However, speculations are still bound to spread, and that tension between promise and proof creates the drama that pulls us deeper. An analogy can be found in biology, where quantum effects may already play a role. Birds, for example, may be using a quantum process inside their eyes to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Studies suggest that radical pairs in their vision rely on quantum coherence to guide migration. This doesn't make birds quantum computers, but it does reveal that quantum effects can shape living systems in surprising ways. If nature can use quantum mechanics in such quiet, hidden ways, then maybe, just maybe, there are other places where quantum processes already play a role we haven't uncovered yet. Could crop circles be one of them? Or is that a leap too far? The clearest way to frame it is this. Quantum AI is an emerging field, full of potential and full of limits. It's not a finished instrument ready to solve the mysteries of the world, but rather a frontier where imagination meets experiment. That gap between what is possible in theory and what is proven in practice is where the intrigue lies. And it's in that space of uncertainty where the story of crop circles, technology, and human curiosity begins to take on a life of its own. Understanding the process is one part of the story. The real spark comes when we ask what this technology might actually reveal once it's set loose on the unknown. What could the quantum AI reveal? The fields have always carried different secrets. At first glance, the patterns look like art pressed into the earth. But what if they're more than that? What if quantum AI could look closer than any eye, sharper than any lens, and find signals we've overlooked? The thought itself is enough to make one pause. Could something as simple as wheat flattened in a field carry knowledge we don't yet know how to read? One clue may lie in mathematics. Nature already speaks in numbers like spirals in shells, symmetry in flowers, and the orbit of planets. What if the circles are no different? Beneath the shapes we see, there could be hidden grids, subtle alignments, or fractal echoes repeating themselves across scales too fine for the human brain to track. What if quantum AI spotted circles arranged around pi, e, or the golden ratio, not as random designs, but as deliberate signatures? Would that mean these patterns are messages? Or would it prove that our minds, hungry for meaning, project intention where there is none? We never can tell. Also, energy brings another layer to the mystery. For years, people have claimed strange readings around crop circles like low hums in the soil, electromagnetic spikes, and even temporary interference with nearby devices. They've been small, fleeting, and hard to verify. Still, what if quantum AI could comb through electromagnetic traces, mapping every pulse and fluctuation with precision no human instrument has yet managed? If those signals point to a repeating signature, could it be evidence of a man-made tool? Or would we be looking at the fingerprints of something we don't understand, or forces that work quietly outside our everyday science? Now, we come to the biological angle. The plants themselves have stories written into them. Some accounts describe stalks bent, not broken, as though they were softened before being shaped. Soil samples have reportedly shown chemical variations, differences in mineral balance, even odd traces that don't match the surrounding earth. On their own, each of these details can be dismissed as rumor or error. Yet, if quantum AI could compare thousands of samples across decades, what would emerge? Subtle shifts in plant cells? Patterns in soil chemistry? Would we finally see proof of tampering or the first glimpse of a natural process science hasn't named? Moving forward, the question of time still lingering. Crop circles seem to appear overnight, yet no one ever sees them being made. Could quantum AI, with its ability to process vast archives of satellite data and weather records, uncover when and how these formations truly form? A circle that takes shape within minutes under stable skies suggests one scenario. Another that emerges gradually through wind, weather, or human activity suggests something else entirely. Tracking those time-stamped fingerprints could move the mystery out of speculation and into something measurable. But would it make the circles less mysterious or more? Finally, there's the possibility of a message. Some researchers argue that the formations aren't just art, but symbols.
Circle formation in the sense that I predicted that they could happen.
Could quantum AI test that theory by translating circles into binary sequences, coordinates, or even visual maps? Could an intricate design be hiding a star chart, a mathematical puzzle, or the first line of a language we don't yet know how to read. If it turned out that the fields held a kind of coded text, one question would echo louder than the rest: is who or what wrote it? Each of these paths leads us deeper into the unknown. Numbers hidden in geometry, energy signatures humming faintly in the soil, plants and earth that may not match their surroundings, patterns of time too precise to ignore, and symbols that might be language. None of them bring us final answers. Instead, they give us clues and threads leading in different directions, daring us to follow. The power of quantum AI wouldn't be to solve the mystery outright. Its strength lies in showing us patterns we've missed, in turning scattered pieces into possible connections. Whether those connections prove to be evidence of human creativity, forces of nature, or something beyond both, the search itself changes how we see the fields. It makes us wonder, what exactly are we really looking at? These possibilities are speculative and lyrical, not conclusions. Yet, they open doors to deeper thought. And perhaps that is even the point. Each circle invites us to lean closer, to ask harder questions, and to wonder whether meaning itself is waiting in the stalks of grain and patience. If the fields hold this enigma, the internet holds the echo. And in that echo, people see everything from secret codes to messages from beyond. And they sure have their opinions about it. Rumors, speculation, fan theories. The story of a crop circle never ends in the field where it first appears. Its second life begins online, as always. Within hours of a rumor about the new design being spotted, comment sections and feeds are buzzing with reactions. On Facebook, members of devoted groups often describe them as hauntingly lifelike, almost as if the shapes breathe with intention. Posts get filled with awe, speculation, and improvised analysis, each one adding fuel to the fire. These online spaces become part gallery, part guessing game, and part rumor mill, keeping the mystery alive long after the stalks have been pressed into the soil. On Reddit and in niche forums, the conversation and thoughts shift. The discussions there lean more into the technical aspect. Users trade high-resolution images, overlay grids on aerial shots, and try matching the forms against mathematical sequences. One commenter once remarked that many of the immaculate crop circles square the circle to 99.9%, calling it astounding. This single observation set off a chain of replies, with some insisting it proves careful human design, while others are convinced that it points to cryptographic intelligence. What starts as a curious detail quickly evolves into a theory, shaped by a community eager to discover meaning in every line and angle. On another range, YouTube and TikTok brim with creators promising breakthroughs. Some claim to show AI decoding hidden ciphers in the circles. Others overlay dramatic graphics and animated grids, implying the designs hold messages we are yet to read.
Features, designs, illustrations of high complexity in crops. They tend to be complicated designs of unknown origin.
And as we all know, viewers are pulled in not always by the strength of the evidence, but by the power of the visuals. Whether the claims stand up to scrutiny or not, once the videos circulate widely and the folklore surrounding the circles grows even denser, these platforms all feed into a cycle of explanation that rarely rests. Popular culture has nurtured these grander ideas for decades. So when people see a design too precise to ignore, the thought of extraterrestrial authorship is never far away. Psychologists and media researchers point out how this blend of uncertainty and spectacle makes for the perfect breeding ground for stories. At the same time, most scientists remain cautious, pointing out that human-made origins explain the majority of circles we know. For many fans, though, the real joy comes from crafting their own theories. They search for prime numbers in the arcs, imagine encoded star maps hidden in the layouts, or speculate about a form of analog data storage pressed into grain. The creativity is impressive, Some post elaborate diagrams, some share overlays comparing formations to astronomical charts, and others attempt cryptographic breakdowns of the geometry. The social payoff is quick: likes, shares, and the excitement of being first with a new interpretation. These theories may not prove anything, yet they turn the circles into living puzzles, reshaped with every retelling. The regular community also acts as a kind of open laboratory. Amateur investigators upload drone footage, share soil samples, and document eyewitness accounts. Enthusiasts organize measurements and compare notes with surprising rigor. Occasionally, this collaboration offers leads that professionals can pursue. At other times, it produces conflicting claims, rushed testing, and biased opinions that makes reliable conclusions harder to reach. The line between useful citizen science and viral rumor is thin, shifting with every new discovery or debate. But then, where does this leave the curious observer? What remains is a table full of possibilities, with some being playful, some serious, some wildly imaginative, and a shared desire for answers that can withstand real testing. Online chatter will continue to spin out stories, and fans will keep drawing new lines between the shapes. That creativity matters, even when it runs ahead of the facts, because it keeps attention focused on the mystery. Still, the ultimate difference between rumor and reality will rest with careful investigation, repeatable data, and evidence that holds up under scrutiny. Until that day, the stories and the science will live side by side, feeding each other and keeping the question wide open. If there is a message hidden in the fields, who will be the first to prove it? Tell us what your thoughts are in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our uploads. To enjoy more content like this, click on the next video on your screen.